We are starting at the finish line. When you crack it open, the shell snaps, the steam escapes, and you see the dense, savory filling. By the end of this breakdown, you will know the exact sequence of steps to reliably engineer 50 of these identical units for your next gathering. Before we start prepping ingredients, verify your hardware. You need a vessel capable of holding consistent high heat, specifically a heavy-bottomed Dutch oven or a dedicated deep fryer. This diagram shows exactly why moisture control is your first mandatory step. Take 3 cups of chopped sauerkraut and drain it aggressively. If you leave pockets of excess water in the filling, the heat of the fryer turns that water into steam, which will violently rupture your outer breading. A dry interior matrix stays intact. Strict moisture management provides the physical foundation for the build, turning loose ingredients into a stable structural matrix. Step 1 is building the aromatic base. Melt 4 tablespoons of butter in a pan over medium heat and add 1 chopped medium onion. Let it cook until the pieces begin to brown and soften. Once the onions have a bit of color, introduce 1/3 cup of chopped ham and 1/2 clove of minced garlic. Keep the mixture moving until those new ingredients take on a rich brown sear. Now we build the roux. Take 4 tablespoons of flour and sprinkle it directly over the ingredients, stirring constantly to incorporate it into the butter and rendered fat. You need to cook this resulting paste for several minutes. Skipping this step leaves a harsh, chalky taste, but cooking it thoroughly eliminates the raw starch flavor entirely. This cooked fat and flour matrix acts as a chemical binding agent, locking the disparate ingredients into a single cohesive form. With the binding agent ready, pour in 1/2 cup of broth, your thoroughly drained sauerkraut, and a tablespoon of parsley. Stir the entire mass until it is completely mixed. If you are using fresh parsley instead of dried, apply the standard substitution rule. Use exactly double the volume of the fresh herb compared to what the recipe calls for in dried format. Fresh aromatics carry a lot of water and volatile oils, so you want to dial in the amount carefully. The goal is to elevate the earthy notes of the dish, not to overpower or mask the core ingredients. As everything cooks together, you are looking for a very specific consistency. This animation shows the target viscosity. If you draw a line through the mixture in the pan, it should cleanly hold a solid ridge like a stiff croquette batter, rather than pooling back together as a liquid. Reaching this exact level of stiffness is a requirement. It is the single threshold separating an appetizer that holds a perfect spherical shape from one that disintegrates the moment it hits the oil. Remove the pan from the heat and let it cool completely. During this time, the fats and starches undergo a phase change, firming up to lock the mixture into place. Do not try to rush this step. Attempting to work with warm filling will cause the fats to melt in your hands, creating a sticky paste that collapses under its own weight. Once the temperature drops and the matrix feels firm to the touch, you can begin portioning. Scoop the mixture and roll it into 1-inch spheres, keeping the sizes uniform so they all cook at the exact same rate. Thermal control is a mandatory structural requirement for the manufacturing of 50 uniform units. This schematic illustrates the 3-stage breading station. First, a zone of plain flour. Second, a liquid wash made from 1 beaten egg and 2 cups of milk. Third, the dry breadcrumbs. Move each ball sequentially through these stations. The flour gives the egg wash something to adhere to, and the egg acts as the glue for the crumbs. Keep your dry hand out of the wet bowl to avoid clumping, ensuring the 3 layers stack into a seamless, protective shell. With the breading complete, it is time for the final heat transfer. Carefully lower the spheres into your preheated deep fat, giving them enough room to tumble and fry without dropping the temperature of the oil. Watch the exterior closely. As soon as the crust takes on a rich golden brown hue, extract them from the oil and transfer them immediately to a wire rack so the excess fat can drain away. The layered breading traps the internal moisture, and the extreme heat of the deep fry rapidly cures the breadcrumbs into a rigid structural casing. This is the result of that precise execution. A full batch of 50 identical, perfectly portioned appetizers, ready for plating. The outer shell stays crisp from the fryer, shielding a deeply savory, thoroughly cooked interior. Because the profile is heavy on rendered fat and cured meat, serve these alongside a sharp mustard. The acidity cuts right through the richness and complements the tang of the sauerkraut. And if you are assembling other canapés ahead of time for your party, apply a thin layer of unsalted butter directly to the bread. It acts as a waterproof barrier, preventing wet toppings from turning the base soggy. By enforcing strict temperature controls, managing your moisture content, and trusting a methodical process, you take standard pantry ingredients and turn them into a flawless, repeatable dish.